with high traits of narcissism, with their grandiosity, their sense of self-importance and their lack of empathy to those around them, often display a profound neglect towards those around them, be it their parents, their children, their friends, their co-workers, whoever it is in that narcissistic person's life. They are who they are. If they have that sense of entitlement, if they have that exploitative behaviour, if they're arrogant enough to believe they're always right, and if they lack the empathy to care about others, that is who they are as a person, no matter who they are around. They can act nice to sell people an illusion, to sell people a false belief of who they are, to pull people into their games so that they can get their needs met by people. However, due to their very nature, their very personality characteristics, they are extremely neglectful individuals because they prioritize themselves over all others. And this is also displayed with their own children. They simply lack the empathy. They don't switch it on and off for different people because they care about other people. They switch it on and off to sell people an illusion, a false belief of who the narcissist is as a person. They turn that charismatic charm on so that they can manipulate and get their needs met by people. The actual personality, the actual criteria of who they are as a person, they lack the empathy to genuinely care about other people. So a narcissistic parent, as they prioritize their own needs, will completely disregard any needs of their children unless it makes the narcissistic parent look good. If it doesn't make the narcissistic parent look good, they are simply not interested at all in the needs of their own children. This goes for their children's hobbies, their children's talents, their children's desires, their children's dreams. If it does not match those of the narcissistic parents, if it doesn't make the narcissistic parent look good, if it doesn't make the narcissistic parent gain attention or validation in any way, either from the, oh, look at everything I have to deal with my child, or look at what an amazing mummy and daddy I am doing all this for my child, they are simply not interested. You will notice with a narcissistic parent, whatever is going off with their child, the narcissistic parent makes it all about them. Either how hard done to they are or how amazing they are. They simply fail to effectively listen to their children because they lack the empathy. They can hear exactly what their children are saying. They lack the empathy to care. They can pick up on, oh, if I act like this, is this gonna make me look like a good parent? Yes, it is. So they'll go ahead with that. Oh, if I act like this, can I get sympathetic attention? Yes, I can. So they will use what they can from their children to get the attention they need. They fail to listen to their children, meaning their children never feel heard. The fact that they prioritize their own needs, their children never feel seen. They use their children to their advantage, to exploit their children to get their needs met, meaning that their children often feel that they're a trophy, that they've got to perform in a certain way to get that conditional love from the narcissistic parent. Because when the child is performing to the narcissistic parent's desires, the narcissistic parent will love bomb that child, giving the child a false belief on what love actually is. Because as soon as that child isn't pleasing the narcissistic parent, the narcissistic parent removes all form of support. Due to the narcissistic parent lacking the empathy, they will constantly criticize and mock and judge their child because they're trying to mold their child into the narcissistic parent's ideal rather than recognise the child as an individual and be supportive of the child. Therefore, the child will never ever feel good enough. The child will often always be striving to please the parents, who, when it comes to having a narcissistic parent, there is no pleasing them. Narcissistic parents neglect their children because they can be incredibly inconsistent and unpredictable. They will pick their children up when it suits them, when it serves them, and they will drop their child when it doesn't, when they have a new source of supply. They will usually have a golden person and a scapegoat person. And if they have one child, the child might be the golden person. If the child isn't performing to the narcissist's desires, the narcissist will scapegoat that child and move on to somebody else and make somebody else the golden child. If they have the golden person, if they have more than one child, the golden and the scapegoat can cross over roles. There's no set pattern as such. They're just incredibly inconsistent and unpredictable because they are prioritizing themselves above their own children, not so that they can be at their personal best for their children, but because they're interested in getting their needs met. And if their children aren't meeting their needs at that present moment in time, they're not interested in their children. Therefore, a narcissistic parent can go from love bombing and smothering their children and treating them so well to suddenly ignoring their children and becoming incredibly cold and distant. And this really disrupts the child's stability and security because they simply do not know where they stand with their parent. Their parent is conditioning the child to live life on the narcissistic parent's terms, on the narcissistic parent's best interest, not the child's best interest. The narcissistic parent neglects their child by gaslighting and manipulating the child's reality to suit the narcissist's reality, their sense of grandiosity, their belief that they're always right. So they'll never admit fault to their child. They will criticize and mock and humiliate the child rather than admit any fault. They're kind of teaching their child that it's not okay to make any form of mistake and that the child needs to be perfect, which is an impossible task because we all make mistakes. It causes so much confusion within the child when the child goes out with the parent somewhere and sees something happen, and then they go somewhere else and the parent relays a story in whatever light makes the narcissistic parent look good. And it's not a case of a different perception, it's a whole different story. Such as one parent can help a child ride a bike, and then the narcissistic parent will go and boast to everybody else how it was the narcissistic parent that helped the child ride the bike when it wasn't the narcissistic parent that did it. And if the child, heaven forbid, if the child dares to speak up and say, hang on, it wasn't you, it was so and so, that child's life isn't going to be worth living until the narcissistic parent needs that child again for something. So they gaslight via third parties. They use emotional and sometimes physical abuse. They're looking to exploit their children to get their needs met by their children, and they lack the empathy to care about how it affects their children. They just rewrite it in their own head that their children deserved it in some way, when their children do not deserve it. It's the narcissist that cannot control their own temper. We can all have a temper. Most people have the empathy not to push things too far. Narcissistic people don't care, and they simply resort to shifting the blame. They will they will invade their children's personal space. Narcissistic people feel entitled, so they will go all out to invade their children's privacy under the pretense that it's only because they care oh so much about their children, when in reality they just want to know exactly what their child is up to, making sure that their child isn't disgracing the parent in some way. leaving the child not able to effectively set healthy boundaries because they haven't learned what these are. The healthy child might invade other people's privacy because they've grown up believing that it's the norm when it isn't. They will fail to provide any genuine support and guidance, only support and guidance that suits the narcissist. So the child learns that they've never really got anybody to turn to. Narcissistic parents go all out to condition and control their children into living life on the narcissistic parents' terms, usually under the guise of discipline. With discipline, you're teaching a child the difference between right and wrong, how to behave, how to think about other people, how to care about others, how to admit to a mistake, how to correct something. With a narcissistic parent, they want to teach their child to jump through hoops to serve the parents because they simply lack the empathy to care about their child. They neglect their child. They fail to care. They don't take responsibility. They pass the blame onto everybody else. It's the child's other parent's fault. It's the child's fault for not appreciating them. Or it's because they had such a terrible childhood that they're not willing to work through. They're willing to continue their destructive behaviour and, oh, that's nothing compared to what I had to go through. Most parents who have been through something go all out when they care for their children to make sure their children don't have to live through the same experience. Narcissistic parents usually delight in their children having to live through the same experience. See, now they know what it's like. Now they know how hard I had it, because the parent prioritises themselves in each and every given opportunity. If anyone has any thoughts on this video, please do add those into the comments for people reading through. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers and your continuous support with the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, I'm Elizabeth Shaw. This channel is all about narcissistic behaviour to give you more understanding of the people you might be dealing with within your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot go no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to help you understand and overcome narcissistic and emotional abuse. If you do find the information helpful on the channel, please do subscribe. If you are looking for further help and support in understanding and overcoming narcissistic and emotional abuse, I do have several online guides available, and those teachable links are in the video description. If you're looking for someone to speak to, I have partnered with BetterHelp, and their sponsored link is also in the video description. I do also have a couple of books out on Amazon, 15 Rules to Deal with Narcissistic People If You Cannot Get No Contact, and a Narcissist Handbook, which is the ultimate guide to understanding and overcoming narcissistic and emotional abuse. If you'd like to go and check those out, they're in the description. Go out there and create the day that you deserve, because you do deserve to have an amazing day. Bye.